The house on Willow Street. The old Victorian house on Willow Street had stood sentinel over the quiet neighborhood for over a century. Its peeling paint, crooked shutters, and overgrown garden gave it an air of neglect and mystery. Local lore whispered tales of a ghostly child who wandered its halls, searching for his lost mother. Some said his cries could be heard on stormy nights, echoing through the empty rooms. Sarah, a young woman with a penchant for the macabre, was drawn to the house. She'd heard the stories, of course, but dismissed them as old wives' tales. She was determined to buy the place, renovate it, and turn it into a cozy home. Against the advice of her friends and family, she made an offer and, to her surprise, it was accepted. The house was a fixer-upper, but Sarah saw its potential. With the help of her contractor, she began the arduous task of restoration. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The creaking floorboards, the sudden drafts, the inexplicable cold spots, they all seemed to hint at a presence. One evening, while working late, Sarah heard a faint sound coming from the attic. Curiosity piqued, she climbed the narrow, winding staircase. The attic was dark and dusty, filled with forgotten trunks and boxes. As she ventured deeper, the sound grew louder, a soft, mournful sobbing. Mustering her courage, Sarah followed the sound to a small, curtained window. As she pulled the curtain aside, a gasp escaped her lips. There, huddled in the corner, was a small boy, his face streaked with tears. He looked up at her, his eyes filled with a haunting sadness. "Mommy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Sarah's heart ached for the child. She reached out to comfort him, but he flinched away, his eyes wide with fear. She realized then that he wasn't a ghost, but a trapped soul. Over the next few weeks, Sarah tried to communicate with the boy. She spoke to him softly, offering him words of comfort and reassurance. Slowly, he began to trust her. He told her his name was Thomas and that he'd been playing hide-and-seek with his mother when he'd gotten lost in the attic. He'd been trapped there ever since. Sarah knew she had to help Thomas. She consulted with a local psychic, who confirmed the boy's story and offered a solution. According to the psychic, Thomas needed to find peace in order to move on. The only way to do that was to reunite him with his mother. With the psychic's guidance, Sarah began a series of rituals to summon Thomas's mother. On the night of the full moon, she gathered in the attic, surrounded by candles and incense. As she chanted the words the psychic had given her, a cold wind swept through the room. A faint, ethereal glow appeared in the corner, and a figure materialized. It was a woman, her face serene and peaceful. "Thomas," she called out, her voice filled with love. The boy ran to his mother, his tears streaming down his face. They embraced, their bodies glowing with a soft, ethereal light. As they held each other, Sarah watched, her heart filled with a mixture of joy and sorrow. She knew that Thomas would soon be free, but the thought of losing him filled her with a profound sadness. As the light faded, Sarah watched as Thomas and his mother vanished into the ether. The attic was once again dark and silent, but Sarah felt a sense of peace. She knew that Thomas had finally found the peace he'd been searching for, and that was all that mattered. As she descended the attic stairs, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A cold dread crept into her heart. She stopped and turned around. The attic window, which had been closed, was now wide open. A chilling draft swept through the room, carrying with it a faint, mournful cry.